Hi, my name is Minna Huotilainen. I come from University of Helsinki, and today we are talking about gender-sensitive use of artistic and practical teaching methods in STEM subjects. And this is a kind of an introduction to the Finnish perspective of this topic. Welcome along. So, what is the Finnish perception of gender equity? When you talk to Finns, you will very often hear Finnish teachers talk about how Finland is the leader of gender equity in the world. They might mention that Finland had women's right to vote already in 1906. Yes, that is impressive. You might also hear them talking about how Finland has had female prime ministers. We have even had a female president. So it is very typical that you hear people talking about things like this, perceiving Finland as having very high gender equity. They might not talk about gendered violence, gendered military force, gender pay gap, or anything like that, let alone the problems related to gender in schools. They might say that this is a very marginal issue, so we don't really have clear problems related to gender in Finnish schools. Well, none of this is obviously true. If you study the topic, you will very quickly notice that this kind of optimistic, positive view is just because people don't have enough information about the situation actually. Many teachers might say, for example, that pupils belonging to gender minorities are really a very, very small percentage of all pupils. But when you ask the pupils, you might notice that it's actually otherwise. These are data from a questionnaire that is regularly done in Finnish schools. The blue data are from 2019, the red ones from 2021, and the darker blue from 2023. And on the left side, you can see answers from those pupils who are gendered as girls, and on the right side, from those who are gendered as boys. And the first data come from primary schools, so these questions have been posed to 14 to 15-year-old pupils. The question is, do you feel that you belong to a gender minority? And already 2019, 4% of the girls answered yes, and nowadays it is approximately 8%. So it's not a very small minority at all. And the same trend is visible for girls in high schools and in vocational education. So you can see that the number of young people identifying themselves as belonging to gender minority is heavily increasing. Not so much in those who are gendered as boys, but even amongst them, it is more than 2%. So it is not a negligible minority, and teachers have very little confidence and very little training in dealing with pupils from gender minorities. Finland also has an extremely gendered workforce, so much so that it is one of the most gendered in the whole world. Interestingly, this phenomenon is not so strong in individuals who were not born in Finland or whose parents were not born in Finland. On the left side of the figure, you can see individuals who work in jobs that are related to science, technology, and mathematics. So these would be professions that are directly related to STEM education. And on the left, you can see the statistics of how many percent of the workforce works in STEM related jobs from those people who were not born in Finland. Only 10% of the females and 35% of males. Next, you can see the statistics of the people who were born in Finland. So it is even more gendered. Only 8% of women born in Finland work in STEM careers, and 40% of males born in Finland work in these careers. So that's a very, very strongly gendered area of labor market. On the right side, you can see another extremely gendered area of labor market, and this is education, health, and well-being. You can see that from those people who were not born in Finland or their parents were not born in Finland, 26% of women work in education, health, and well-being, only 7% of men. And on the right, extreme right here, you can see that from individuals born in Finland, it's even more gendered. We have 33% of all women working in the fields of education, health, and well-being, and only 6% of males. So what is going on here? How come the workforce can be so strongly gendered? Where does this gendering stem from? What is the source of these choices that people have made for their careers? That's an interesting question. Could it stem from the results that they have at school, how they are learning at school? The answer is no, because girls in Finland do well in STEM subjects. It's just that they don't want to study them further. On the left side, you can see the PISA results from different European countries and different OECD countries. The line in the middle, the light blue line, is the mean. And on the upper part of the figure, the blue arrow is pointing the results of the Finnish boys in the science performance in the PISA test in 2022. So you can see that the boys are clearly above average. On the lower part of the figure, the red arrow is pointing to the point where the Finnish girls are. And you can see that they are also above average. They are way more above average than the boys. So the girls do clearly better in the STEM subjects in Finland than the boys. But then when you look at the degrees, what are they actually studying? On the right side, you can see the finalized degrees from universities, degrees in education. 87% of people who finish an education degree in Finland are women, only 13% men. What about technology and ICT? 34% and 28% women, and the rest of them are men. And if you look at the vocational degrees, it is even more gendered. So education, similarly, 86% women, 14% men, but for technology and ICT, only 20% and 14% women, and the rest of them are men. So it doesn't translate from the good results in the schools to continue to choosing the area of education later. On the lower right of the figure, you can see inventors. How many percentage of the inventors in STEM areas in companies are women in different countries? And you can see that Finland is lagging way behind the OECD mean. So very, very few female inventors, something like 7.5% of the inventors are women. So even those women who go to the STEM areas, they don't end up doing the innovative product design work there. There is a long tradition in Finland in looking at gendered textbooks in schools. Already in the 1990s, we had a very pioneering researcher, Professor Elina Lahelma, who was working on this topic. And she, together with her research group, noticed that the textbooks in schools are extremely gendered. They were studying the gender stereotypes, and they found that the school books were forcing gender stereotypes on the children. And this was true both for daily activities that were depicted in the school books, but also professions, like people working in different jobs. And they continued studying not only math books, but all different types of books. And they found that it is a very canonical finding. Males are represented more in the books. So it's more likely that the character is male. And especially if the character in the book is in a position of power. So then it is even more likely that this person is male. This was in the 1990s, so it is already some time ago. But very recently, there was a study of Finnish mathematics books for the third graders, for the sixth graders, and for the ninth graders. They looked at pictures in the math books. How do the characters look like? Are they masculine? Are they feminine? Or are they non-gendered characters? And they found that the non-gendered characters are somewhat popular in the smaller children's math books, for example, for the third graders, but still more than 50% of the characters in those books are masculine. And the same continues on the sixth grade and the ninth grade. The number of non-gendered characters, often they are, for example, animals, they might be dinosaurs, or they might be some other non-gendered characters. The number of those characters is decreasing when the children are older, but the number of the masculine characters stays above 50%. So are we still living in the 1990s? Didn't we learn anything from the findings of Professor Lahelma? I think what we did learn is to include the non-gendered characters, but only those in the young children's books. And even that didn't break the power from the masculine characters who are still the main characters in children's math books. They also studied words, gendered words in math books, and found that the amount of gendered words is also, there are more masculine than feminine gendered words in the math books. So I would say that yes, we are still living in the 1990s. We haven't taken this information further. We haven't solved the problem of males being represented more than females, or non-gendered characters or non-gendered persons in the math books of our primary schools in Finland. We are promoting for the use of artistic and practical teaching methods in STEM subjects. And this is obviously important because we want to make sure that everybody can learn. And there's a lot of good things to be said about using artistic teaching methods. But here I'm kind of giving you a word of warning also. Please don't reproduce the gender stereotypes that are typical in arts. So when we are trying to make STEM learning easier for everybody and also more interesting, we might want to include, for example, musical or visual methods of teaching, also very physical methods of teaching, like a lot of movement and practical things to do. So if we do that, we have to be aware of the gender stereotypes that are typical in arts teaching. For example, on the left side of this figure, these are data from a questionnaire and an interview of music teachers. And music teachers today who are teaching music in Finnish schools actually have a very gendered view of musical instruments. They believe that drums and guitars would be instruments for boys, and singing and maybe playing the piano would be appropriate for girls. Sometimes these stereotypes come along when they are describing what their pupils have done. But sometimes these stereotypes also come about when they talk about their teaching methods. There were even teachers who said that they would never put a girl behind the drum set. And then when this teacher was asked why is that, he just said, well, you know, it would never work. We all carry with us gendered stereotypes of the arts, and these gendered thoughts are also guiding the subjects in Finland when they are selecting. It is possible to select if you want to take some additional artistic or practical subjects in your school. And on the table on the right, you can see the selections that the students are making. Music is chosen by 8,000 Finnish girls, only 5,800 boys. Visual arts, even more gendered. 18,000 Finnish girls are choosing this subject, while only 8,300 boys. So if you go to the voluntary classes of visual arts, you are very, very likely to see a room almost full of only extensively girls. And the opposite for physical education. So 27,400 boys are choosing this subject as an additional subject, while only 13,100 girls. So if you go to a lesson of physical education that is voluntary lesson, you are bound to find a lot of boys there. And this is something that you see in the Finnish schools, and this stems from the stereotypes, because obviously there are lots of boys who are interested in music and visual arts, lots of girls who are interested in physical education, but still these subjects remain very gendered. For some reason, home economics and crafts are less gendered in Finland, so that is also quite interesting. Some teachers talk about so-called gender blindness, and they say that they want to remain gender blind. They want to treat every pupil as an individual and not think about their gender at all. This is actually not allowed. Legislation in Finland states that every teacher in Finland must actually advance equity with their gender-sensitive teaching. So it's not only to create equity or try to treat everybody the same, but the job actually includes advancing equity. And the same holds true also for racism, detecting and deconstructing racism. Some Finnish teachers talk about color blindness, so that they wouldn't notice the different skin colors of their pupils, for example. This kind of talking is quite typical in Finland, and it shows that these teachers don't actually know what advancing equity means. It means that you have to be quite sensitive and you have to be promoting equity and not only trying to treat everybody the same. You have to actually deconstruct those structures that are keeping these gendered practices alive. And that's why a lot of training and learning is needed. So I am welcoming you all to our community. We are studying and learning about these topics. So welcome along, and it's wonderful to have you with us joining the community. Thank you.